Right. Good evening. I'm a little early this evening just so that I can make sure that everything is handled. Just waiting for participants whom I'm expecting at 6:30. I know that some people will be a bit late this evening because they are coming home from work, and to those people who are rushing home to join. Um, so uh, I'm Nikki B. I'm presenting this wellness talk on the fundamentals of well-being. It's a series, a four-part series. This is part two, and we are looking at the compass to wellness. So basically, focusing on the four compass points to survival, and hopefully with uh, whatever you learn here, you will learn how to sort of thrive. Good evening. Hi, thank you for joining. Um, so this this week we are addressing the second most important aspect of the compass of wellness, which is um, primarily, again, nutrition and hydration. I just want to recap. So last week was part one. We addressed breathing as the most important cornerstone to wellness. And we looked at how the impact it has on health, um, and so your body and on your mind, and then how we apply consciousness to breathing. Um, so um, basically, thank you to all of those joining from far and wide. I appreciate your time and attention. I'm going to wait until a few more minutes before we do a little recap from last week, because there is a game I want to play that those who participated last week will have learned. And I'd like to give returning uh, members a chance to win a prize. So this evening, during the course of this meeting, I will be offering a chance for two people. The first person to win will get to choose which of the two they want, and then the second person will have the remaining prize. And the prizes are a one-on-one well-being coaching session with me. So we will spend 45 minutes kind of addressing whatever it is you need to address on a body, mind, or spirit level when it comes to health, wellness, and well-being. And then the second gift I'm giving away this evening for participant engagement is a distance healing session. So it would be, in these times of Corona, I'm unable to do one-on-one, hands-on, in-person Reiki session. And there has been some demand for some distance healing and energy work during these tough times. So with the distance healing session, I take you through a self-Reiki healing session. So it's a guided session. I'll tell you where to place your hands. We'll look at breathing. Perhaps there'll be some color breathing, color therapy, visualization, etc. So it will be a 20-minute self touch but guided under my instruction session, and that will be the second prize up for grabs this evening. So please participate as you wish. So last week we looked at the importance of breathing, and I just want to recap on an exercise. Hi, welcome. So we looked at a breathing technique, and I just there isn't anyone on yet who was here last week, so I might play this a little later again just to give them an opportunity. But for those who missed, one of the important takeaways from last week was this breathing technique, which is called a 4-7-8 pause. And the way it works is I explained how to use your thoracic cavity, so your breathing space, to maximum capacity. And so you want to always try and fill the lungs as much as possible. And can everyone hear me? Yes? Maggie? Yeah. So when you do this breathing technique with the count of 4, you're going to breathe in, fill your lungs up, right under your armpits, right up into the top of your shoulders. You really want to get the diaphragm moving and then get as much oxygen in. So you're going to breathe in for the count of 4. You will hold your breath for the count of 7. The reason you're holding your breath for the count of 7 is that it allows the oxygen from the air that you've just breathed in to transfuse into the from the lungs into the bloodstream. That's called external respiration. So again, you want to read any of the notes from last week. There is a blog and a video if you need to catch up at any point. And then you're going to breathe out for the count of 8. That's just a way to control your breathing, and it's kind of a self-mastery thing. You're telling your brain, or your brain is telling your body, hey, I'm in charge here. We're going to do things at my pace. So it really just calms everything down because it strokes the vagus nerve. So therefore it will calm kind of all your mental activity down. So if we can just all together take a moment and just do this 4, 7, 8, pause, breathing, just one round, please, just so you can all experience it and hopefully take it into your life before we move on with today's talk. So we're going to breathe in 4, hold for 7, and breathe out for the count of 8. And normally at that point you'd pause and repeat the cycle. Beautiful way to manage stress. Anyway, so that was a little quick recap from last week. And I've talked to you about the distance healing, just consulting my notes. So I just wanted to, I've introduced myself a little earlier in the video, but I just wanted to remind everyone of the Nikki B Wellness approach, which is a tri-focus approach, body, mind, and spirit. Even though each of those is an independent aspect, they all are interdependent. They all interact. So whatever happens on one plane will affect the other plane. So taking care of your body will enhance your wellness. Taking care of your mind will enhance your well-being. So when you treat one area, you are in effect treating every other area. So that is what the tri-focus body, mind, and spirit approach is. It also is about quality and quantity. Those are our frameworks we always apply to the healing and wellness aspect. Okay, so let's move on with today's topic, which is sustenance, the second most important pillar or cornerstone of the foundations of well-being. And I'm going to start with hydration and with a quote by a fellow called Mike Adams. And he says, today, more than 95% of all chronic disease is caused by food choice, toxic food ingredients, nutritional deficiencies, and the lack of physical exercise. So that just fits in quite nicely to a degree with the compass to well-being. But food really, how we nourish our bodies really does determine our ultimate state of being, because of how our cells are, well, the cellular function, you know, the most foundational aspect of our being. We are chemical, biological, magnetic beings, so and energetic. So you know, we can't ignore that. So when we are born, our first need is that first gasp of breath. And this is a moment for those who wish to engage. So I'm just making sure that everything you need is here to engage, and that Wow. Sorry, I'm struggling a bit with this. So it's going to be difficult for you guys to engage. I don't know how to unmute it so I can hear you. So I think you're able to do that from your end. So if you want to engage, then unmute your side. But please remember to remute after we've had a chat. So once we've taken that first gasp of the breath of life, we then tend to cry. This is simply an expression of a need we have. And, birth is a traumatic experience. So post-birth, we will experience some post-traumatic stress. But for the most part, the body will get rid of it. Like, as in when the baby is crying, the way it shakes and shivers. That is the muscles releasing cortisols and stress hormones. Animals do it naturally. Hey, how are you? So animals will do it naturally. Humans have been taught not to respond to this natural process. We've learned to control it. So we end up storing all our hormones and not really releasing them. And this has a very inflammatory effect on the body. So after we've had a deep gasp, breath of life, after we've had a good cry, our needs then need to be met. So the first need we pretty much have would be that of we need sustenance now to survive. So we at that point would probably look at latching onto the mother's breast and then starting to breastfeed. And a beautiful thing about this too is it's not just a biological need or process, it is also actually the first point of bonding that a mother and child have. So it plays a role. So let's look at the physical aspect of eating. So it's why do we eat? Why do we need to eat? Anyone want to guess? Anybody?
For energy.
Yes. Fuel, to be fueled. Absolutely right. Thank you, Maggie. Nads, you need to unmute if you want to answer. Okay.
Yeah, I've already done that, but yeah.
So yes, the first reason we need to eat is to stay fueled. There's another reason, another primary reason. Anyone?
Health?
Okay, so in order to have health, we need to repair, we need to heal, right? So that's the second aspect of needing to nourish ourselves, is the need for our bodies to heal and repair themselves. So, I kind of have a question for people. If we need food, one, simply as a fuel, and two, as a form of repair, why do we make a lot of the choices we make? How does milkshake... yes, it serves as a fuel, but as you'll see in the talk, there are better options and choices to make in life with regards to fuel, ones that will nourish you on a body, mind, and spirit level. This is kind of where we start to drop in the quality. Always I talk about the quality, it's like number one, and then the quantity. So we will address food in those categories. So I just want to quickly use a quote from a fellow called Michael Pollan. Listen, any names I've mentioned or any in the blog, which I've already made live. So for those of you who want to have that as a side referral, it's got the diagrams and this video recording will go in that blog too for those who want to share and catch up later if you miss anything. So Michael Pollan, fabulous guy, also doing a lot of work in research to psychedelics. Wrote a fabulous book called The Omnivore's Dilemma. For me, he's a mentor, someone I follow. He's passionate about many of the similar subjects that I'm interested in too. So well worth look at for those of you who wish to. So I want to just quickly look at, in the physical aspect, in the blog, I talk quite a lot about the body. So I'll break the digestive system's broken down and all the organs and the accessory parts that are involved. So if you want to go and look at the biology, it's all there. I'm not going to go into it now. I'd rather focus on other things that are, we didn't learn in biology. One of the ways that I look at food is how can you use, because we need to use it to fuel in the right way and also to heal and repair, is how can we use food as a medicine? So if you want to consider the many components on a nutritional level that food, listen, this topic that I'm dealing with now, nutrition, people study this for a year in order to become a nutritionist, or even longer. So what I'm giving you now is just like such it's a minute pinprick in, it's in life. It's so tiny. There's so much that goes on in this topic. And I just want to really focus on the wellness aspect of it rather than it as a subject on its own. This is also something that, because everyone is an individual and made up differently, it's something that I'm quite happy to do we can address any nutritional matters through the wellness consultation service that I offer or with the well-being coaching service that I offer. We can look at what your health issues are and address them from a nutritional, supplemental, etc. point of view. So this is very general blanket approach. Okay. I wanted to say that if we look at food as a way of medicating ourselves, then considering something like an 80% plant-based diet, it has a lot of value. Because when we're talking about a plant-based diet, we're talking about vegetables, fruit, seeds, nuts, legumes, grains, fungi, mushrooms. We're also talking about all aspects of the plants, the roots, the stem, the bark, the leaves, the sap, the fruit, the berries, so on and so forth. So, there's, I can't remember who said it, but he says that for every plant or for every human condition like disease, there is a plant that heals that condition. And I have yet to find a contradiction to that. I don't use Western medicine. I walk my talk and talk my walk. So I use food and herbs and plants as a way to heal and as a medicine. So, the healing aspects of plants is that they are packed full of nutrients. You've got carbohydrates, which are a very quick, fast fuel that the body can use. Not my favorite source of food, but then we have to consider that there are different body types, different types of people with different needs. So, you need to know when and how to use food to get the sum of the parts right, essentially. So yeah, carbohydrates will give you a fast, their primary function is to give you a fast source of fuel. You've got proteins. They're involved in many things, but predominantly and a secondary source of fuel. And the body will use carbohydrates first before it uses protein. So that's one of the benefits of carbohydrates versus protein, is that protein is then spared to be used for healing and repair, and the amino acids can be used differently, like for example muscle growth when you're doing strength training. Then we've got fats in foods, and those are your lipids. So I really rate these more than any food pyramid does allow for. I think they're a very good source of fuel, a slow burning source of fuel, meaning you don't really need to, if you eat a higher fat content in your meal, first of all, you'll feel fuller quicker because your stomach has two ways of knowing that it's got food: how much it stretches and how rich the food is. So fats are rich food. So when you have a fat-rich food, it will tell your stomach quite quickly that, hey, I'm full. so you don't need to eat as much. So when you're eating fat, you can actually eat less. And also because it breaks down, it actually doesn't, it starts a little breaking down in the stomach. The fats really break down in their fullest once they've left the stomach and they come into contact with bile from the liver and the gallbladder. So again, they're a much more efficient fuel source, I believe, Nikki B. Not necessarily, the world does not agree 100% yet. Banting is in agreement with that. But there are issues about banting, I experience, is that people tend to go quite animal heavy in banting when they look at, because they're told to eat more fats and proteins and less carbs. So people eat a lot of bacon, a lot of chops, a lot of steaks. Chops are lamb cutlets for the non-South Africans. My apologies if I use any local slang. So I kind of feel like we need to be sourcing our fats more from the plant world. There's so many. And I'm not talking about sunflower oil, which is highly saturated, canola oil, also their farming and their production, heavily fertilized, not good for the environment. You know, you need to consider your food chain, which is where we add the spiritual conscious level, an awareness of where our food is coming from, and what's going on before and after it has left our space. Fats I love. I'll talk, actually let me talk about them now, because I love them so much. So again, when we talk about fats, there are many ways. So your nuts and seeds are often really high in fats. And what I love about these fats is that, like I said, you get saturated and unsaturated. Saturated are generally from animal sources and your highly processed oils. Your cooking oils generally have been heated to really high temperatures a few times. So I don't think anything in nature can survive that. And I don't think that's something that your body can naturally deal with. You know, it's an unnatural, yeah. So I would say preferably keep, you know, if you can't eat it, then yeah, like don't be putting it on or near your body really. And then unsaturated are your plant fats, but you've got to be careful again, sunflower, canola, those kind of things. You know, you've got so many options. I use peanut oil in cooking because it has a high burning temperature and it's fairly flavorless. I do understand that we live in times where there are nut allergies, but I would like to say that this is generally probably because, and I stand corrected, so you know, don't take me down, just hear me out. So what happens is when we don't look after our guts, when we eat a bad diet, when we're highly stressed, when we take certain medications, statins for example, what happens is our guts become inflamed. So, you know, in our guts, we have very tight cell, there's no gaps in the cells in the gut to start off with. But what happens over time with inflammation is that these cells start to kind of form gaps. Sorry, let me put it like, start to form gaps. So instead of being tight together, they become a little bit open. So what happens is instead of filtering out any particles, remember this is it's a barrier between your mouth, the external world, and your butt. You know what I'm saying? Like, so if you keep your mouth closed, and your nose closed, you can prevent most pathogens and what have you getting in. But the thing is, everything you're eating has got soil or bacteria or viruses or some kind of pathogen. Your body can normally withstand it because of the Peyer's patches in the gut. So when those cells become permeable, bigger particles filter into the bloodstream, which triggers your internal, your lymphocytes and your white blood cells and what have you. It triggers them to kick into an inflammatory response to protect your body. So now your body's, inflammation is like stress, is valuable that much. Everything else is harmful and it causes oxidation and free radicals and aging and death. not that we can put it off, but we can at least live well until then, you know, healthily and functionally as much as possible. I would like to be able to feed myself and wipe my own ass until I die. That's kind of my two objectives with regards to taking care of my health. So whatever your reason is, those are mine. But back to food. So nuts and seeds are a beautiful source of oil. I believe women should be taking about 250 mils of oil a day. Put it in your smoothies, add it to your salad. Just find a way to get it in. We should all be getting more of our omega-3 rich oils. Omega-3 is very, it calms inflammation down. Sorry, I said just now that it causes, it's an something else was anti-inflammatory, but it's actually inflammatory. And omega-3 is the anti-inflammatory that we use to soothe it. It's a lovely, again, it's a good source of fuel, it's healing. You know, if you think about it, the brain is a fatty tissue. Well, think about animals. When animals make a kill in nature, what is the first thing they do? They eat the inner organs, they eat the liver, most nutrient dense organ in an animal. Hello, we're animals too. I know we're intelligent, but we're animals too at the end of the day. The liver is a beautiful fatty tissue. So, you know, a lot of the internal organs, I believe, require, you know, you need to feed them life with life. Fatty tissue, I believe, thrives better on a fattier type of nutrient. Then bearing in mind with omegas, we also hear about 6 and 9. So we talk about taking them in. I don't really feel most people who eat a healthy diet don't really need to take anything more than omega-3. And you can go quite high with your omega-3 supplements because it's quite difficult these days to get that kind of quantity in through our diet without putting ourselves at risk for mercury poisonings, because we need to generally eat oily fish. Oily attracts mercury, excuse me, so we become more susceptible to ingesting heavier toxins into our body. So omega-3 is one of the few supplements I do recommend supplementing with. And for anyone who wants to know which one and how, what have you, please get in touch. I'm happy to go through it with you to determine the right dosage for you and which brands and what have you I recommend for quality. There are a few that I quite like that I've tried. And you can get both vegetable and marine animal omega-3s. So I covered fat. So then we've also got in foods, the nutrient groups that we get from foods that nourish and heal, help repair and heal our bodies. We have antioxidants. So like I said, from inflammation, that's from oxidation, we get free radicals. So what antioxidants do is they help limit the oxidation process that goes on in the body. And they will help neutralize to some degree the free radicals. So what happens is when we use this language, what we need to also understand is a lot of it is marketing and editorial language that we've heard over the years. So I'm trying to use it as a means to keep my dialogue fairly mainstream. But what one needs to understand about these terms is that like a detox, you don't do a detox. Your body is detoxing all the time. That's what your liver does. Its primary function is detox. What you can do is support your body in its natural detoxing processes. And you can do this various ways, and I'll get to that a little later in the chat. Sorry, I lost my thought. Antioxidants, free radicals. So we are chemical beings, right? Essentially, all that's going on. I know you going out there and you're living this amazing life or not so amazing life, in which case we need to have a one-on-one well-being coaching session. But you know, you're going along and you're distracted and you're living and there are all these bigger things going on. But if you backtrack to the basics, really all that's going on to keep you alive is a series of chemical reactions. we're using oxygen, like we learned last week. You know, almost no metabolic or enzymatic process can occur without oxygen. So what happens is when we talk about the oxidation and the free radical issue is that one of the uses of calcium and magnesium in the body actually is that as chemicals is that they bind with any, so when these chemical reactions are going on, oxygen is binding to hydrogen and whatever, and it's forming chemicals like a gas, a more complex gas or a more complex substance like water. But what happens is as chains get built and broken down is you will get odd floating little chemical compounds floating around looking for some way to attach and for something to do. So your mineral salts, which again is one of your nutrient benefits that you get from food, is that it allows more chemical activity to go on. Magnesium is one of the most important mineral salts in the body. It binds with almost everything. It's a beautiful thing to take to help us deal with the stress response. So my meeting, oh my gosh, I've only got 10 minutes left. I'm going to, if the meeting shuts down, I'll keep talking. Hopefully it keeps recording and then I'll post it onto this. Or what I'll have to do is carry on next week. Are you guys fly with that? Because otherwise you're missing, hey, Ange, otherwise you're missing, you know, sorry, I've been waffling maybe. But anyway, well, let's see, let's play by ear. Okay, so antioxidants we've covered, mineral salts, we've looked at proteins, carbs. So those are all the benefits you can get from food. So really it's important to make wise choices. I want to say that one of the things about food that's quite important where we add the spiritual mental aspect is, and there is a blog about it, is intermittent fasting. So if anyone needs any support with this, it's a beautiful, beautiful way to support the detoxification process of your body. As I mentioned, not only do you give your liver a break from constantly putting stuff in that it now has to detox, but it also gives your digestive system a break. So it can actually flush out anything it needs. I've also in the blog talked about some substances that you can use like charcoal and diatomaceous earth to help clean out the gut. And I've explained how they can be used to some degree. But again, always happy to work one-on-one and provide support. But these things, I want to just say one thing. I'd like to just give a warning right at the beginning of this whole wellness thing. Is anytime you deal with supplements, know that they are medicines. And yes, we can over-the-counter buy them, but actually they need to be used with caution. You know, there are not only other drug interactions, but there are contraindications, like instances where you shouldn't use certain things. Like, for example, vitamin K shouldn't be used with DVT issues, you know, thrombosis issues. Activated charcoal, by the way, it doesn't differentiate toxins. It just draws whatever the most toxic thing is out your body. So if you're on contraception or any prescription meds, you know, like antidepressants, what have you, it can interfere with how those work in your body. So please, anytime you are using supplementation and you need guidance, I'm more than happy to help. I have a lot of blogs available on various subjects. Please use them. And if you need more support, then I'm happy to help there. So that's just a quick that. Let's see what, oh, here's a really beautiful medicinal benefit of food. I'm just going to keep going until it tells me it's done. And that is fiber. The reason I mentioned the activated charcoal and the diatomaceous earth and supporting the detox of the gut. Listen, gut health, like I said earlier, is probably your most important system to address when you want to look at wellness. It takes a long time to heal, but the damage done to it didn't just happen overnight. Same as weight gain, same as addictions. These things take time to, we got into the situations, our health situations, our disease situations over a period of time. And we need to allow time for, you know, for that to correct. We can't start taking a supplement and in a day's time expect it to feel the difference. You know, it's the compound effect, and also how we stack and how we use different things, substances. Again, with wellness, like I'm saying, we use food as a primary form of treatment, you know, and only when we can't plug certain holes will I then start to look at, hey, let's address supplementation. And one of the first things we'll do is address how you manage stress, because like I mentioned last week, stress is the father of most modern day disease, and managing that will allow you to calm inflammation down on a physiological level, so on an actual biological body level. Let's see. Also, I love bitter foods. Bitter foods. So grapefruit, citricidal is a lovely supplement I take. Actually, as I have a lovely formula, and citricidal is one of the 3 ingredients that I use as an antibiotic when I'm feeling sick. My daughter uses it too, and it works incredibly well for us. But bitter foods support the gallbladder. Remember, the gallbladder is pumping, and the liver and the gallbladder are pumping out bile to support the digestion of lipids and so on, and cholesterol. So bitter foods will support the breakdown of lipids. So another side effect of banting, people going onto a high fat diet too quickly, is that it puts a lot of strain on the gallbladder. So always add your fats incrementally. You'll start usually with a teaspoon and build up to a tablespoon over a period of 2 weeks to a month, depending on your constitution and what you can handle. Not everybody has a lipid-friendly system, meaning they actually their bodies find it hard to break down fat. So then you have to play around with your proteins and your carbs a little more to get the balance right. Again, it comes down to body type. I've talked about that in the blog. Essentially, you get 3 different body types. I like to use the Ayurvedic system of medicine, which talks about Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, which basically is your endomorph, ectomorph, and mesomorph according to Western body types. There's a link to testing what dasha you are, so you can discover what is a good diet as far as foods, whether they should be hot or cold, spicy or plain. So that's quite a nice, you know, if you're getting to know yourself well, you are your own master. Again, all I can do is deal with a blanket approach. You need to use these tools and resources to get to know where you fit into the spectrum and what you can take out from all of these things. That is the sum total of your parts. So again, I just want to backtrack. I didn't think I finished talking about the fiber. And what I love about fiber is that it is like the toothbrush of your gut. So it's very rough. Probiotics love it. Indigestible fiber is what a lot of your healthy gut bacteria flourish on. They nibble on that stuff like horses eat hay, and they thrive and they grow. So eating more fiber, so preferably your fruit and veg as raw as possible, and not stored, not transported. Again, falls into the conscious aspect of food, where we look at the whole food chain. How was that animal reared or raised? How were those plants treated? What was the soil quality? What is the water quality? How fertilized is it? So what impact is that having on the water on planet Earth and the environment? For example, that is, the layering of once I've met my body's needs, I start to think about how I can control what I'm putting into my body, and when and how. And then the third layer is the spiritual, the conscious layer, which is the awareness of what, again, like I said earlier, what happens to this thing before and after I have consumed it. And I want to just take one moment to talk about making eating a tantric experience, because I'm all about sex, drugs, and rock and roll. So I want to talk about Tantra as it's a lifestyle approach, or it's a way of being, a state of being. And my takeaways quickly from it are two things. One, it's being present, it's been here now. So when you eat, become aware of now, here, what you're doing, because often what we're doing is we're thinking of something else, something to do. We're not here now. We're not experiencing, which is the second thing, which is where your senses become involved, where you become aware of chewing your food, swallowing it. How does it taste? How does it smell? How does it look? How does it feel in your mouth? Is it hot, cold? You know, how is the taste? So that's you engaging fully with the moment. And again, making it a spiritual experience. I wanted to, we've got 1 more minute, and let me quickly have a look. Avoid crap when you eat. Crap is carbonated, refined, alcohol or artificial, processed. Avoid crap. And that's all I have time for today, except for that we didn't get to cover the hydration part, which essentially is water. And a quick little takeaway is that water contains oxygen. So if you're not breathing enough, drink some water. That will get your oxygen levels up so your body functions better. Love you. Thank you, everyone, for your time.